Shalom, family. Shalom, Mishpaka. And this is your host, Brian Anthony. Binyah with Beyond Babbitt, USI, the United States of Israel, reporting for duty. Your host, Brian Anthony. Binyah with Beyond Babbitt, USI, the United States of Israel, reporting for duty. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Thank y'all. Appreciate y'all for joining in. Know it's early on what they would call Thanksgiving morning. So on those who participate in that, it's what they would call Thanksgiving morning. It's Thursday, 25th of November. 25th of November, 2021. It's coming to a close, guys. It's coming to an end. I just wanted to preview the fall of Babylon. We don't know where we are right now. And I want to show you. Hopefully this will probably be brief. I don't know. It just depends. Of course, there was no announcement, which there never is. I almost did it last night, to be honest with you. But I probably should have. But I'll go ahead and do it this morning. So we can look in the news, guys. And we see the headlines. The battlefield is full of troops from all the nations of the world, all the quote-unquote powers and superpowers. Right now, the bases are loaded. Bases are loaded. We have Russia with somewhere between 100 and 200,000 troops surrounding the Ukraine at 3 specific choke points. We have China with that same amount of infantry or soldiers practicing to take Taiwan. I mean, all of them are the UN, Japan, and all over the world. The bases are loaded. And we don't have anything to worry about, guys. The Most High has made a covenant of peace with the righteous, and we will fare well. We will be all right. We just have to be obedient about it. So I got a new book in, a few new books in. And we're just going to look and see what we can expect. Because when I say previewing the fall of Babylon, I'm not talking about Nimrod's Babylon. I'm talking about Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon. And we know that Nimrod's Babylon fell. And that may have been due to Israel. And Nebuchadnezzar's Babylon fell. We didn't take them down, but that was definitely due to Israel. And when you read the book about the prophets and everything, they said he was going to bring in the Medes and the Persians. And we know through history, that is what happened. All the prophets in the Old Testament, majority of them, after his writings, you have the prophets who prophesied about, these are basically the southern kingdom's prophets, because the northern kingdom was already carried off by the Assyrians. And the southern kingdom there was a period of time to where all the prophets were prophesying about the fall of Judea, what's left of Israel, you know, the tribes that were still there. And then being carried away into Babylon, how life was in Babylon, the escape from Babylon. The prophecies are twofold. It has dual meanings. And Babylon is just like Egypt, it's just like Sodom and Gomorrah. It represents sin and death, sin and bondage. Um, and so, like I said, all these prophets in the book prophesied about it, what it was like. Um, we had gotten into some of the in the pseudepigrapha, the prophets who lived through it. Even in the sealed Book of Mormon, they found the Book of Moses. So when Babylon fell, then the Medes and the Persians took over. Now, in our Bible, we call him King Cyrus. We're going to be looking in the writings of Nebuchadnezzar II today. And we're just going to look at a little small portion of it. But he wrote about it. And so we're going to talk about the fall of Babylon from the eyes of Nebuchadnezzar. Remember, Daniel was there during that time. He was under Nebuchadnezzar, and then he was under the Persians when they took over, the Medes and the Persians. He stayed high up, second in command, because of his wisdom and his relationship with the Most High Yah. See, but he had to go through some things as well, even though he was like part of the government. He got thrown in the lion's den. The Hebrew boys got thrown in the fiery furnace, but they stood their ground for their God, for their power, Yahuwah. And this is where we are now, guys, because so Babylon as a nation, when it began to fall, they witnessed it. And we have the translation now of Nebuchadnezzar II, is what his name was, Nebuchadnezzar. And Nineveh was a city of Babylon, was one of the cities of Babylon. Nineveh, the prophet Jonah prophesied about the fall of Nineveh, and unless they repent, and he had given them a certain amount of days. Well, they repented at that time, and so it wasn't destroyed at that time, but later on it did get destroyed. And Nebuchadnezzar witnessed, he understood the destruction of Nineveh. This is part of the fall of Babylon, because it was a city of Babylon. It was a part of Babylon, run by Babylon, governed by Babylon, a province, and when the Medes and the Persians came upon them. So in the Bible, we read about King Darius and King Cyrus. Well, this one is King Cyrus. And we're just going to read a little of it, because this is what we can expect at the fall of mystery. Well, some of the things that John told us about, some of the things that Daniel told us about. See, Daniel lived through the first fall of Babylon and prophesied about this go around, with the dreams and all that type of stuff. So let's look at it. So again, guys, the Nebuchadnezzar II tablets. I'm just going to read a little of it. And you know what? Chapter 1 is only, I was just going to read a little bit. I'm going to read a little more. I'm going to read the whole chapter 1. It's basically just 2 pages. And we're going to highlight some things what we could expect to see. Did y'all see all the signs? All the signs that's happening in the sky? Kevin Scott, shalom, my brother. Welcome to the show. The blood moon. Did you see the blood moon and the mushroom cloud moon? And then the day after that, the moon had a big halo around it. The brightest halo I've ever seen on the moon. Appreciate the likes, guys. Appreciate the thumbs up. So we're seeing signs in the skies. The moon, after the blood moon eclipse or whatever that was, it turned into a mushroom cloud. And now we're seeing so many different things in the skies. It's looking, I've never seen it like this. These are signs, guys. And we're going to see some of the signs that they saw in those days before it happened, in the days of Nebuchadnezzar, before the fall of Babylon. Remember, because at that time, Babylon was the big dog, running everything. Nebuchadnezzar had got so cocky, the Most High made him go crazy for 7 years. He had got his senses back, but when it fell to King Cyrus, and I'll show you that his name in here, and the Medes and the Persians, and they were, I think it's in the book of Isaiah, how he talked about he was going to stir up a mean people who not going to care about the money, not going to care about the elderly, men, women, and children. And that's how they came in there. When you read about the destruction that happened to Nineveh, it looks like the destruction that happened to Sodom and Gomorrah from the Most High. Stones, fire and brimstone fell and burnt everything, except it wasn't. It was, this was written by the Most High for Babylon to go down like this. But this army, the Median Persian army, carried out this destruction upon Babylon. And we can look forward to this to happen to Mystery Babylon in these last days. So the rumor is, guys, before we get started, and this is another reason why I want to put this out here, the purge is happening from the top down. From my understanding, in California, there have been numerous things to happen at like malls where they're seeing kids jump with hammers and whatever else, stop traffic, bust windows, run in, take everything and go. Taking hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of things within minutes, not even minutes, maybe seconds. And that's happening from the North California, from the Bay Area, all the way down to past Los Angeles and California. They say kids 10, 20, up to 50 jump out, boom, and go get the most expensive stuff. Jewelry stores, purse stores, name brand, all kind of stuff. Malls, smash and grab. And the police aren't going after them. They're saying it's maybe vandalism or something. And so then I heard that there was an old man out walking or jogging or driving or whatever he was doing, and up to 30 individuals stopped him and beat him, just attacked him. Maybe he was driving because they was punching him through the window. The guy was like 80 years old. So the purge has already started from the top down. Mad Max scenario, grid down. I learned this yesterday from Prepper Nurse One. He said growing up, winter would be by looking at the hairy worms. I had never heard that. So he said the patterns on the hairy worms, or the hairy caterpillars, reflect the weather or foretell the weather. So he says when there's like brown and black, it's going to be light winter, heavy winter, light winter, heavy winter. If they're all pretty much brown, light winter, heavy. If they're blackish, heavy winter. And he said the ones he's been seeing, and I knew what he was going to say because I saw one around here, a big freaking hairy worm caterpillar, all black, and it was huge. And I saw it for, I don't know if it was just that one or if I had seen several of them, but big black caterpillar hairy worms, all black. And he said that, and he was like, this year what I've been seeing, all of the caterpillar worms have been all black, which means it's going to be a harsh winter, a dark winter. I had never heard about looking at it like that. I've heard people say about looking at the sky, I've heard the trees, when the leaves fall heavily on the ground, they say don't get them up because they're protecting the grass because winter is going to be harsh. You know how people like to keep their yards manicured, and when the leaves fall, they go and get everything up. They say if it falls really heavy, leave those leaves down there. They're protecting the grass from dying during the winter storm. And Prepper Nurse One basically said the all black hairy worm caterpillars indicate a harsh, brutally cold winter. And we know that the convention they had, they're talking about shutting down fossil fuels by 2026. They're supposed to start like immediately. They're auctioning off oil and gas rights. They're about to shut this stuff down. So there's not going to be any oil, not going to be any gas, any natural gas, propane. They've already tried to ban wood burning fireplaces under the mandates of UN and things like this. So get ready, guys. This winter is going to be a hell of a winter. Now, there's another thing, another quote unquote rumor that's out there. Reportedly, someone high up in the military brass has gotten the message out that after quote unquote Black Friday, which is tomorrow, it's usually here, and then you got Cyber Monday. But they're saying after tomorrow, after Black Friday, they're saying that things in the U.S. are going to look more like Australia, to where they have the penalties, to where you can't come outside of your house if you haven't been marked, and if you do, you get a fine. If you don't pay the fine, they take your property, they take you to jail. They're using the police and the military to enforce this type of stuff. They're saying things in the United States are going to look more like Australia after Black Friday, after tomorrow, after Black Friday. Next week is going to be a little different, is what this guy, the military brass, allegedly said. I don't doubt it. Did you see what's happening in Austria, Hungary, Israel, Australia? Those are the nations right now who the unveed are like going to FEMA camps and everything. All kind of things, restrictions, should I say, are on those who have not accepted Thriller, have not taken the Thriller, who have not been double marked. And they're saying it's going to look like that here soon after Black Friday. We don't know how soon after. Now, I'm also hearing that the mandates by Bo have been blocked by Supreme Court, upheld, like basically banned by Supreme Court, and OSHA is supposed to have stopped them as well. So it's supposed to be illegal right now to keep pushing them. Besides the states that have also made it law to block the mandates, like Florida and Texas, guess what? These jobs, these employers, so the government is at civil war because they're still pushing it. Even though it's blocked by the Supreme Court, it's blocked by OSHA, they're still pushing it. Everybody has to take this thing. Who's going to stop them? We're witnessing the fall of Babylon. Now let's see what the military part is going to look like. Let's see what it looked like in the past. When the Most High stirs it up, he's giving us all these signs, and he's going to send the army like he sent to Nebuchadnezzar to destroy them. And it started with Nineveh. And Nebuchadnezzar got the reports. He was able to witness a bunch of it some kind of way, or got reports on it and wrote about it. So again, we're in the Nebuchadnezzar second tablets, his own words. This is chapter 1. We're going to read the whole chapter 1. It's only have like a page or two, 1 page or 2. And it's called The Fires of Nineveh. Appreciate the likes, guys. Appreciate the thumbs up. So let's look at it. It says, it came to pass that when blank, no longer brilliant, sky turned dark. And so it was some type of sign in the sky. Or maybe this was from the smoke. But the sky turned dark. It's already looking scary, right? The start of this thing. And behold, the battlefield was as a smoking furnace, burning for burning as the entire land smoked. Surface of the land was stretched flat and black, smoldered. There's some parts that they they couldn't interpret, so they just put ellipses in there. So if I'm reading and it skips, I may say blank or I may not, but there's some words in here that were unintelligible and they couldn't translate, in other words. So there's some missing spots, but overall you get the picture. So let's read that again. Burning for burning, as the entire land smoked, blank, surface of the land was stretched flat and black, blank, smoldered, blank, unblown fire consumed them. Unblown fire consumed them. And wood was heaped on by soldiers, and the flames were kindled to consume the flesh and let the bones smolder. So we talk about all the prophets in the book who prophesied about the fall of Babylon. The southern kingdom was there. And then it talks about the escape of Israel. But it's talking about the last day, the escape of those who escape into the wilderness. So Babylon is about to fall again. Mystery Babylon. We're already seeing the natural disasters happening. We're seeing the economic collapse happening. And then the most likely scenario, and how the Most High did it the last time, he brings armies upon it, invading foreign armies to burn it with fire, just like it's prophesied in the book. Now you have those in Israel who are going to escape to the wilderness. You're going to have those who don't even know they're supposed to escape. They're going to get the book. Remember, I told y'all it was 2 endings to Revelation for the righteous, 1 ending for the wicked. For those who know they're supposed to escape, they're planning that now, preparing that now, because we don't know when it's going to be burned. Let's keep going. And it says, brood reeds were broken and smoking flax was not quenched. And I believe that's in the scripture somewhere. I don't know which prophet said it. Maybe Yahshua said it. Maybe Isaiah said it. But that is definitely in the Bible. That I should have looked it up. Maybe I'll do it later. But it says, bruised reeds were broken and smoking flax was not quenched. Burning coals were thrown upon the armies of Nineveh. Burning coals were thrown upon the armies of Nineveh. And the soldiers were cast into the blank fire, into deep pits, and not rise again. Blank. Lights of the wicked were put out. Blank. And the sparks of their soul shall never shine again. This is verse 4. Men were cast into fires, and they fell into blank. The houses were burned, and blank were in them. I believe what was in them, probably their wife and kids. They were fenced in with iron and the staff of a spear, and they were utterly burned with fire. The book talk about how he just going to stir up the Medes and the Persians, and they wasn't going to care about men, women, and children. They weren't going to care about money. You're not going to be able to bribe your way out of it. You see how the destruction happened? And it happened to everyone who didn't escape. We'll see. Verse 5. This is chapter 1 of the Nebuchadnezzar's second tablets. And it rained snare, fire, and brimstone, and horrible blank for King Psyax. See, we call him King Cyrus. I guess his real name is King Psyax of the Medes. Rage was mighty and blank. The portion of Nineveh's cup, blank, as a fiery oven in the time of his anger, blank. His soldiers stoned the people of Nineveh with stones and then burned them with fire. Guys, it would behoove you to be trying to escape Babylon, to separate and to escape Babylon. right now. And they had blank, for King Sinsharushkan had been killed. The king of the Medes swallowed up his enemies in his wrath and left the fire to devour them that lived. He took their noses and ears and cast them back into the midst of the fires of blank. Those dead flames were redeemed by death, blank, and the power of the sword. King Psyax of the Medes commanded blank completely to destroy the people of Nineveh. Death. Fires went, blank. The men of Nineveh gave their bodies. See, this is for the ones who like, I'm going to fight for this country. I'm going to. When the writing is on the wall and the Most High says it's going to fall and he's the one doing it, then you just giving your body for a sacrifice. But let's read it. The men of Nineveh gave their bodies, blank, burned, and they had blank. It profited them nothing. They were salted with fire, like sacrifices are salted with salt. And the bodies of those men whose blood is blank by the high priest were burned, and the priest as well. The men who, everybody who stayed, everybody who tried to fight, death and destruction came upon them. They gave their bodies. They thought they was going to somehow stop the army, stop the invading army. This was written by the Most High. He said Babylon was going to be destroyed then and now. There's nothing new under the sun. Okay. Verse 10. Let me read this again. The men of Nineveh gave their bodies, blank, burned, and they had blank. It profited them nothing. They were salted with fire, like sacrifices are salted with salt. And the bodies of those men whose blood is blank by the high priest were burned, and the priest as well, blank. Then it says death, and it's a question mark. Knows what that means. Wives and their sons and their daughters were all taken. And blank, blank. Through the fire, they were burned, and flames, blank, upon them. So they didn't take the wives and daughters and keep them, kind of like Temujin would have did. All right? Or Genghis Khan. They didn't keep the men, the women and children, the daughters and the wives. They burned them too. They had to die too. You need to let this sink in, guys. And King Nebuchadnezzar had to watch as Nineveh, a town, a city, a country of Babylon, province of Babylon, get destroyed. And this is the information he's getting back. And he knew they were coming for him. They were coming for him. Let's read that again, verse 10. Wives and their sons and their daughters were all taken. Remember, the men had already given their lives. And blank through the fire, and they were burned, and flames blank upon them. The adolescent boys and girls. Fire fell upon them like arrows from the string, and blank destroyed and scattered them. Blank. They took fire to their bosoms, their feet hot coals, blank, with heat and blank. Lions roared and were burnt. Fair young virgins, eunuchs, and the house of women burned. Yes, blank. Faces scorched from the heat. Man, it sounds like these people faces melted away on their bodies as they were destroyed by King Cyrus, Psyax. Terrible destruction that the Most High sent upon them. And this fire wasn't raining down from heaven. This was the invading army that rained down terror on them, fire on them. He didn't care about money, men, women, children, the elderly, none of that. He just wanted them all gone, all dead. You couldn't try to buy your way out of this. He didn't want the women. He killed the women too, and the daughters and the virgins. Y'all better let this sink in. Verse 12. Yes, blank. Faces scorched from the heat, and blank looked worn as if they'd wandered a journey over the pastures in search of the wind. Blank. Fire was kindled in their company, and blank, the wicked. It probably burned the wicked, but it says they couldn't translate that part. And blank. For the fire was an unexampled supremacy over them, and they all lost in a battle. They all in a battle, blank, from which no fugitive returns. From which no fugitive returns, blank. Immolation and sacrifice was for them. The boat of the dead went down, blank. Threefold cloth was cut for burial shrouding. People were desolate, and the pyre was lit and were burnt. All died, this is A-L-L, all died who had lived in the land, blank. Who had hoped. Now check this out, guys, because I'm hearing a lot of, like Moses really did battle the magicians in Egypt, right? These aren't the magicians that we're used to as, growing up in Babylon. You go to some type of birthday party or some type of kids event and they got magicians doing card tricks, right? Stuff like that. This is nothing like that. When they talk about the magicians, they're talking about real power, knowing how to use the elements, some by knowledge, some the knowledge of the fallen, the devil. Some could be the knowledge of the Most High, but they were accessing this power without giving credence to the Most High Yah. So it's wicked. If you using this power and this knowledge without permission of the Most High Yah, it's witchcraft. But we have brews now. You got males and females, people getting into magic, different things like this, the different powers. And I can understand that, because Solomon had a lot of knowledge of different things. He said he controlled 72 demons. And there may have been others who had the knowledge of how to do supernatural things, just like science. For instance, someone's voice can sing at a certain pitch and shatter glass. Is that witchcraft? Not really. That's more like science. Because it's not the volume that shatters the glass. It's the pitch. But it takes practice. So someone can learn how to do that. And there are other supernatural things that you can do with frequency and vibration, with your voice or other things. Martial arts, you can withstand certain things. You can have, now that's knowledge. Some of this is knowledge. But some of this knowledge is wasn't meant for man. But then you have those who, everybody has their own God, right? Whether they believe in God or not, they say they're spiritualists now, whatever that means. Some of them pray to spirits, familiar spirits, devils, demons, fallen angels, the ancestors, other Elohims, but not the one true power. And a lot of them can get things done. They access different powers and can use them to do things. That's not an exaggeration. And at this time, like I was talking about how Moses battled with the magicians and sorcerers from Egypt, you had those in this time of Nebuchadnezzar and his kingdom. Remember, he was summoning all these people to try to tell him his dream, and they couldn't. Remember? All the wise men and the magicians and the sorcerers. And it took Daniel and the Most High Yah to give him that interpretation. Well, these same people, you had some in high up places who worked for his kingdom, and then you had some of those who just practice at low level, voodoo, hoodoo, and whatever else. There are many things out there, guys. There are a number of things out there. And they was trying to use this stuff to send back the invading army, to deter them, to stop them, to defeat them, which the Most High had already written in the book that he was going to send on them. Let's see how well it worked. And that's why I went into that. Let's see how well it worked. So I'm going to start right here. It says, cloth was cut for burial shrouding, blank. People were desolate and the pyre was lit, blank. And blank were burnt. All died who had lived in the land, who had hoped and weighed out their offerings to the gods. See? It said who had hoped, so it said all died who lived in the land and who had hoped and weighed out their offerings to the gods of death and the dead. So not only they communicated with death, they communicated with the dead, trying to get some get back, trying to get some power, trying to get something or somebody to go and stop this army that the Most High had already wrote. I'm sending them to come and kick your butt. Once the Most High done wrote it, ain't nothing can turn you back. All these people, they may have had magicians and sorcerers and priests and priestesses who had some type of power. But let's see what happened. It says, all died who had lived in the land, who had hoped and weighed out their offerings to the gods of death and the dead, to the gods of fate. The fate, actually, that's three sisters, the fate sisters. They're gods. Fate is not just a word. It's like, it's all fate and destiny. Now, those are gods. Who had hoped and weighed out their offerings to the gods of death and the dead, to the gods of fate, and to all the ancestral gods, praying to the ancestors, all this type of stuff. It was not enough. It was not enough. Nothing could stop the army that the Most High had sent upon them. And that concludes chapter 1, guys. I'm not going to go in chapter 2 right now. They're telling us after Friday, after tomorrow, this United States is going to go down the path of Australia. You should look at some of the things there are videos on YouTube. You should look at some of the things they're having to face right now. Because if you can't go pay the fine that they give you for being in public without having a V, you go to a camp, you go to jail, they take your property. The fine is like $14,000. And remember we talked about FEMA here was hiring internment specialists for the female camps, if you know what I mean, for those of you who've been watching. After Friday, guys. So they've kept you blinded, watching football, watching basketball, watching this game, watching that game, with the holidays in Hollywood. They kept you blinded. But in the background, they keep having these meetings about what they're going to do. They're planning to enforce within the next 4 years. And then by 2030, they have a whole new world planned out for you. They're making laws, they're passing laws. You don't know what they're doing. But the Most High has already prophesied that this place ain't going to make it. Mystery Babylon will be destroyed as well. And none of them other gods will be able to stop it. Ancestral gods and everything. All these other spirits communicating with the dead and the god of death and all this other stuff. Nothing is going to be able to stop what the Most High has decreed. And that's why he told us to come out. I can't do anything until you're out of there. Well, what is to be must be. Some believe they're not going to go out into the wilderness. Well, God bless you. Deal with it, with what the Most High brings on you. Because they said all died. They said the men of Nineveh gave their bodies to no avail. Anyway, guys, I just want y'all to ponder on that, to think on that, because there's nothing new under the sun. Whoever he sends upon us is going to be a mean people, just like that. They're not going to care about men, women, and children, or money. You're not going to be able to bribe them. And they're coming. Make haste. Let's escape. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Love y'all. Peace and blessing. Till the next time. And this is your host, Brian Anthony. Binyard with Beyond Babbitt, USI, saying peace and blessing. Over and out. Your host, Brian Anthony. Binyard with Beyond Babbitt, USI, the United States of Israel. Saying shalom, family. Till the next time, Mishpaka. Peace and blessings. Amen.